Well, the Browns 27-14 winners here in Houston against the Texans, and of course Mary Kay. The big news of the day is that it was Deshaun Watson's return, his first game in 700 days.
It really was, and I was actually surprised that he was as rusty as he was.
Yeah.
I really thought that, and I think he thought that it was going to be like riding a bike. Like he could get back out there and play the game that he's played since he was 6 years old. But the truth of the matter is, he had a lot more on his plate today than just playing football. I think it hit him like a ton of bricks to come back here to the Texans NRG Stadium, to have his accusers here, to have signs in the stadium, to have all of those emotions and try to go out there and play for the first time in 700 days. And he said it best. He said, I felt every single one of those 700 days, and it showed.
Yeah, and it was interesting to kind of talk to his teammates, Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Jadeveon Clowney, who of course played with him here in Houston, and there was kind of this consensus, it seemed like, that no one was really surprised by this rust, and no one was really concerned, and guys all kind of mentioned you saw flashes of what this offense is going to be able to look like with Deshaun Watson at the helm.
Yeah, and that's true, but the problem is that they just don't have time on their side.
Right.
They have a huge game coming up against the Cincinnati Bengals, and they can't afford a rusty quarterback right now. They need every single victory that they can get. So they're either going to have to prop him up again like they did today, or they're going to have to hope that he knocks the rest of that rust off in a hurry.
Yeah, and I think the other thing everyone was kind of watching coming into today that we were speculating about was, what's the reaction going to be like for him in the in the city where all of these sexual misconduct allegations arose? Not only that, but he demanded a trade from here. That's actually what started him sitting out at the beginning of that 2021 season. And I think from our perspective, it was kind of a mixed bag. I know you were down on the field and you saw some reactions that I think maybe we weren't expecting coming into this in the pregame.
Yeah, he received a really warm welcome in the pregame. He was out there signing autographs, taking pictures with fans, and it seemed like it wasn't going to be as bad as he thought it was going to be. But I think once the game started, once the boos started, every time he took the field to start a new drive, the boos rained down upon him. There were fans holding up Predator t-shirts in the stands. The accusers we knew were there. And, I think there were probably some chants and some finger pointing and some things going on. So I think it probably was very difficult for him.
Yeah. And I mean, especially because he's not a player who's used to getting that kind of reaction. He was pretty beloved here for most of his time in Houston. We know especially his charitable giving became like kind of a huge part of his identity here. But the booing did, I think, of course, kind of start to die down once the Browns went up big in the fourth quarter and this crowd kind of started to disperse. And it was already a pretty thin crowd, we know. Now, besides Deshaun Watson on the field, I think the biggest things to remember from this game are the fact that none of the touchdowns came from this offense in his debut, all special teams and from the defense.
Yeah, he really got bailed out by his teammates, and I think that's a good sign. They did play complimentary football. We must remember, however, they beat a 1-10-1 team, and it was a struggle, and it should not have been. And so I think that's a big takeaway. But you do have to credit the defense and the special teams with doing what they needed to do, which was score the points that Deshaun Watson was struggling to get. So they got 2 touchdowns from the defense, a Denzel Ward fumble recovery, a Tony Fields pick 6, and then of course the DPJ 76-yard punt return. So the other units did their job.
Yeah, well, we will have coverage on everything related to Deshaun Watson's NFL return, on everything else about this game. And like Mary Kay alluded to, Browns have a big one coming up next week, a division game on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. So we will have your coverage on all of that and more over at cleveland.com/Browns.